So I'm doing something a little bit different today. I am reviewing 3 books in one video because they're all sequels, and I feel like if I did full reviews on them I wouldn't have much to say about them and they wouldn't be very long anyway. Because in order to really go into what they're about, I would have to spoil stuff from the first book, which I don't want to do in case someone hasn't read the first book but still wants to. So I thought I would just talk a little bit about 3 of them in one video. So the first sequel that I read this year is The Eternity Cure, which is part of the Blood of Eden series. It is the sequel to The Immortal Rules. I gave The Immortal Rules 5 stars, and the review for that I will link down below. So The Eternity Cure I gave 5 stars, and I loved it! It was even better than The Immortal Rules. I thought this book was way awesomer in every way. It was just amazing. I felt like it went deeper into the character development, and I felt like there was more of a purpose in this story. Like in the first one it was just mostly about Allie becoming a vampire and coming to terms with what she was, mostly. That was like the main part of it, I felt like. In this, there's actually something that she's trying to do. And she used to get help from people that she never thought she would ask help from, and it's just, it was good. I really liked this one. So if you've read The Immortal Rules and you weren't sure if you would like the second one, I highly recommend it. The second sequel that I read is Pandemonium, which is the... I don't know what the series is called, I'm just going to call it the Delirium trilogy, and it's the sequel to Delirium. And I gave Delirium 5 stars, and I'm going to give Pandemonium 4 stars. It was still an awesome book, it was really good, but it wasn't as good as the first one. Again, the review for Delirium I'll link down below, and in that review I mentioned how I thought the writing was beautiful, and I just loved the way it was written, and I found that this didn't really have as much of the beautiful writing in it. But it wasn't about the same thing, really. Delirium was about, you know, her falling in love for the first time and not being sure if it was something okay or not. Obviously, it's not going to continue with that, like that all happens in the first book. So this one, the whole love thing is past. It's not a big deal anymore. So her thoughts about that are completely different now, and I felt like a lot of her thoughts about the love is what was written so beautifully, so there wasn't really that same kind of feeling in this book. It didn't have the same kind of feeling at all, but it was still really good. It was exciting, and it was written out of order. So it went back and forth between right after where the first book ended, like starting right away, and then like 6 or 7 months down the road. And it would go back and forth between those 2 times, so that it was always exciting. If like, just say the time 6 months ago wasn't very exciting, the next chapter you'd be reading about 6 months ahead and it would be really exciting. I liked that it was written like that. The third sequel that I read is Losing Lyla, which is the sequel to Hunting Lyla. I gave Hunting Lyla 4 stars, the review's down there, and I'm going to give this one 3 stars. I didn't like it as much. It started off really exciting and action-packed, which I thought was awesome, but then it just died right down, and I didn't find it exciting at all. The first book, the non-exciting parts were super intriguing and interesting because it was full of questions, and you didn't know what was going on or like who to trust. And this, all of the questions have been answered, and so you know what's going on. You're just waiting to be able to do something. It's just about them planning what to do and how should we get out of this, which I didn't find as exciting. And then also they continued with the Americans talking like British people. And there were a lot of choppy sentences, and I wrote 2 of them down, which really bugged me, and I'm going to share them with you. A shadow fell over me. I looked up. Alex had appeared. Which would flow much better if it said, a shadow fell over me and I looked up to see that Alex had appeared. His voice broke. I looked up. He had his eyes closed. Oh my god! You could say, his voice broke and I looked up to see his eyes were closed. You could even say, his voice broke. I looked up and saw that his eyes were closed. Oh, and then this part annoyed me. Jack's reply made me wince. My dad's reply made me wince even more. What did they say, please? Why did they make you wince? It was still good. It was exciting at the beginning and it was exciting at the end, but it kind of dragged in the middle, I thought. But I did really like the characters, actually, a lot. The character development I felt was pretty strong. I liked Alex and Jack a lot, and I liked Sookie and Nate. They were hilarious, and they reminded me of a Gilmore Girls episode. I'm still glad that I read this, and if there ends up being a third one, I'll read it too. So those are my 3 sequel reviews. The Eternity Cure by Julie Kagawa, Pandemonium by Lauren Oliver, and Losing Lyla by Sarah Alderson.